So if you're looking for a really good portrait lens for your Sony APS-C camera, or even a full frame like the Sony A7IV in APS-C mode, Viltrox has got a new lens for you. It is their 56mm f1.7, and it has autofocus. Is it any good? And by the way, quick little disclaimer, Viltrox, they did send me this lens for review purposes. They didn't pay me for this review. They didn't tell me what to say. They don't get to see this video before it's released. And all opinions about this lens are my own, as always with every review. So this lens has 11 elements in 9 groups, and it has 9 diaphragm blades on it. It has autofocus, which is really nice to have from a Viltrox lens. It has that USB Type-C port on the back for firmware updates. And I will tell you that Viltrox has been very, very good about updating firmwares on all of their previous lenses. And they're very good about tweaking the autofocus on it, tweaking how the lenses perform. And I tell you, they do a really good job with that. So it's always nice to have a lens that you can accept a firmware update. Now, it's a hefty little lens. It comes in at 171 grams. But, you know, overall, when you look at its profile, it's not that bad. I mean, it doesn't stick out very far. But 171 grams is something to keep in mind. It is a metal and composite construction on this. The focus ring is really, really, really smooth on this. Now, it is not a linear type. It is an infinity type, so it will sit there and spin kind of fly-by-wire on the manual focus, so keep that in mind. And it doesn't have any built-in image stabilization, so hopefully if you're using it with a camera like the Sony A7IV that you've got some IBIS control in there, then that will help out a lot. I'm going to show you some photographs that were taken with this on the A7IV, and then we're going to do some video with this lens on the Sony FX-30, which is a Super 35. And yes, you know, 82 millimeters is quite a tight field of view, but at f1.7, you can get some really creamy bokeh. We'll see how the bokeh is on it. We'll see how the chromatic aberrations look in video and also in photos with the Sony A7IV and the FX-30. So enough of me blabbering, let's get to that now. Ready, set, go. So right now I'm recording on the Sony A7IV with the Viltrox, just to give you a little idea of what it looks like video-wise and how blurry that the background can get, especially with me. Now right now it's showing at an f9, so it's not going to blur out the background a whole lot, but let's look at what autofocus performance looks like. And then we'll stick it in aperture priority and see how blurry that we can get the background. Now I've got it in aperture priority. I've got it at f2.8 right now, just to show you how it can separate me from the background. I'm approximately about 5 feet away from the camera. So that's gonna let you know in APS-C mode on the Sony A7IV what the crop factor is, because you have to remember, it's a 1.5 times crop when you go from full frame sensor to APS-C mode. And now this is with the Sony A7IV in aperture priority at f1.7, which is the widest aperture that this lens will go. So that'll show you the nice difference between the separation of me and a nice blurry background. And then we'll do a full focus test with it at f1.7. Now we'll try the FX-30. And now I'm shooting on the Sony FX-30, which is a Super 35 image sensor with the Viltrox lens. I have it on aperture priority at f1.7 to see how the separation is between me and the background. Once again, I'm about 5 feet away from the lens, and we'll do a little focus test with the FX-30 with this lens. It's really a good lens, and especially if you're going to do like an interview type situation where you can have this camera, the FX-30, a little bit further back from your subject, but still get that nice separation between the subject and the background. Well, let's get to my final thoughts about this Viltrox lens. But overall, what do I think about this lens from Viltrox? You know, I've always been really happy with all the lenses that I've gotten from Viltrox. And I will say Viltrox is a company, let's date back to my Canon M50 when I first got my first Viltrox lens. And that was what, 4 years ago, maybe 5? And you know, I was like, Viltrox, who are they? It's an up-and-coming company. Viltrox has come out with some really great lenses. At my home studio, I used the Viltrox 20mm, which is made for full frame, and its autofocus is just as, well, it's about 90% as good as what Sony's autofocus is. And the autofocus on this one works very well. It is very quiet while it's focusing, and you do get some reliable focus. There was only a time or two where it misfocused just a hair, but overall, I mean, it's a very good lens, especially considering the cost that this lens is coming in at when you're thinking about a prime lens. And that's the thing. When you think about prime lenses, you're thinking about an f1.7. It's not a f1.8, it's not a 2.8, it's not a f2. Now granted, maybe it's not a f1.2, but then again, the lens would be a little bit bigger than this one. But a f1.7, you can get some nice creamy bokeh with it. The bokeh balls look very nice. It's a very good overall lens. So if you've got a Sony E-Mount camera and it's APS-C, or you got a full frame that is able to change over to APS-C mode, then yes, this Viltrox lens is definitely one to consider, especially if you like that street photography, portrait type of stuff. For video, I can see certain aspects of being able to use this in a video scenario, but this is more photograph-centric in my opinion, especially because of that 82mm focal length on it. So overall, great lens. Build quality is super great. I'm waiting for them to do a firmware update because it hasn't been officially released yet until today for Sony E-Mount. So you're seeing this first time. So overall, I'll give it 2 thumbs up. Very nice lens from Viltrox, and a big thank you to Viltrox for sending this out for me to test. And as always, I'll catch you in the next review. Bye-bye.